Welcome to another Demarcation Media Mega Construx review. Today we are going to be taking a look at some Halo 4 Master Chiefs. So in front of me I have the 20th anniversary Halo 4 Chief, the 2014 exclusive Master Chief, and this guy is a little bit weird because he was a con exclusive or an event exclusive at first, and then he was also a Toys R Us exclusive. So he's not really a straight, event exclusive because Toys R Us had him. So it's a little weird, but he's actually very hard to get nowadays. He came in this little polybag type thing. And Megabird provided this guy to be in this video. So a huge thanks to him. And then the last Chief is the Master Chief Collection Halo 4 Chief. So let's go ahead and look at these guys one by one, starting with this guy right here. So when this guy came out, getting a Chief was quite a job. He did not come in very many sets, and the sets he did come in were fairly hard to find. So the ability to get this guy in the single figure little poly bag as an exclusive was kind of a big deal. It made it a little bit more exciting than it is today because we have so many Chiefs now that it's so easy to get one. Walk into any Walmart or Target or whatever, and you're pretty much guaranteed to find a set with a Chief if there's any Mega there at all. And then this guy on top of that is this really cool metallic green. It's a little more shiny than what we usually see, and it doesn't have as much of an issue with varying shades. So our current metallic green tends to have darker parts and lighter parts, but this guy, it's pretty uniform and pretty it's got more depth to it or something. I don't know. I kind of wish Mega would use this sheen more. It's really good. Yeah, I'm not seeing any variation in the green at all, except for when the helmet is kind of in the light because the helmet is the rubbery stuff. But yeah, the green is really well done. He's got the scar on his armor. The visor is done pretty well. There is no outline, unfortunately. Visor outlines are kind of really helpful in defining the face a little bit more. But yeah, the visor is printed up pretty well. And then he's got this AR right here. It's one of the big old ones, and it's kind of all just this silvery gunmetal color, except for the handle, which is kind of darker. So this guy is pretty cool. Even by today's standards, he's a pretty solid figure, which is probably why he's worth so much now. I would have liked a visor outline, but Mega wasn't really doing that then. Now, before we move on to the other Chiefs, I wanted to real quick show these Cortanas. Megabird provided this one in the middle. So we've got the 20th anniversary CE Cortana, what was our standard Cortana for a while, and then we have the Comic-Con exclusive Cortana. And I think it's pretty easy to say that the Comic-Con one is the best out of all of these three, purely because there is the printing. But that's not to say that these two are bad. They're just more simple. And the CE version is pretty interesting because of that color. So yeah, just a little extra. I didn't want to do an entire video about these Cortanas because, they're just tiny little figures, and only one of them is printed. Next up, we have the Master Chief Collection version of the Halo 4 Chief. And this guy is a lot darker than the other ones, and he's got kind of a lot more detail, mainly because he's been given a silver wash over all of his armor, as well as he has some lights printed on the sides of his helmet, and a visor outline and some print in the little indent on his helmet there. So that's really cool. This guy just looks like he was pulled straight out of the game. This darker color is perfect. And honestly, the main kind of downside to this figure is that the scar does get a little lost in the silver wash. The other guys, the scar is really prominent and you can see it as soon as you look at the figure. But this guy, he's got so much silver wash, you kind of have to look for a minute before you see that there is a scar, and this is actually the Halo 4 Chief. He comes armed with a railgun, which is a very well printed piece. We've seen this a couple times before. Well, let me correct that. We've seen this one in a couple other videos. We have not seen this particular print of railgun, as far as I know, in any other sets. So that makes it kind of a desirable piece. And it makes a lot of sense because the railgun was featured pretty heavily in the promotional art for Halo 4. And honestly, it's just a really cool looking weapon. So this guy is, in terms of looks, a step up, I would say, from the 2014 version. But I don't know yet if the 20th version will beat this guy or not. But we'll get to that in just a minute. And last but not least, we have the 20th anniversary Halo 4 Chief. And you can see right away that this is the new metallic green, which means the forearms and the head are kind of similar colors, and then the chest plate and the shoulder pieces are similar, and then so that we've got a bunch of different shades of green going, which is a bit of a bummer. Like, I don't know why they don't seem to be able to get the same shade of green anymore. But I mean, it's not awful. It just shows up more, especially in this bright light. You can see the scar is right there on his armor. He has a visor outline, which is pretty well done. It's only on the bottom. And at first, I wasn't sure about that. But the way that the shadow ends up hitting, it looks like he has a full visor outline. Look at that. You would think that was printed, but then when we rotate it, there's nothing there. It's just an illusion. So that's honestly really clever on Mega's part. Just a little bit of time saving, money saving. Mine is a little bit angled in the middle to one side, so it kind of looks like he's, I don't know, smirking or something. We've got a tiny bit of black print on either side of the mouthpiece. Some more print up here. And then around the back, there's just the green. And then he is armed with a, what is this, a sticky grenade launcher? Which, honestly, is one of the most awkward-looking weapons, like, in my opinion, at least. It's just kind of there. And then you have one shot before we have to stick a new grenade on there. So it's just kind of odd. And I'm not really sure why they chose that weapon for him, because it's not the most iconic weapon Chief has used. It's not even the most iconic weapon in Halo 4. So I'm not really sure what they were going for when they gave it to him. We don't get them very often, so it's nice to get one. I don't know. It feels like Chief should have had a more iconic weapon. But yeah, it's not bad. I think it's a rare enough piece that the oddity kind of can be overlooked. So now it's time to look at all three side by side. I can say right away, without a doubt, the Master Chief Collection railgun is the best weapon out of the three. There's kind of no contest. And there's kind of increasingly less print. There was a bunch of print for this guy's gun, a little for this one, and none for this one. So what I wanted to do first, I want to remove this guy and then just have these two side by side, because they are both metallic green. And you can see that they are different metallic greens. And you can also see that the difference in the green on this guy is pretty much non-existent for this guy. And actually, let me go ahead and move in closer because it's not quite showing up the way I want it to. There we go. See, look, the 2014 version just has a really, really nice color. It's just really well done. It works super well, and it has none of that weird color difference issue. So I'm not sure why they stopped using this green. This is a fantastic green. They just decided, I guess, they're not going to use it anymore, and they gave us this more yellowy green, and that's the one that usually has the issues. I can say the heads between the two, this guy, definitely in terms of like his visor print and the outline, and the fact that he's got the little lights printed makes the head better, but honestly, the color of the 2014 version really just looks better. It's just more clean and sharp, and it's just better. And then we're gonna bring in this guy again, and these two side by side, the comparison is a little unfair, honestly, because this guy got so much extra attention because he was just a straight up con exclusive. So it's not quite fair. But I will say this one definitely looks more accurate to the Halo art. But this guy, the one thing he's got going for him is the fact that his scar is really, it just shows up. You can tell right away that's Halo 4 Chief because of the scar. This guy, you can tell that it's the Halo 4 Chief, but more because of his coloring and less because of the fact that he's got the ding on his armor. And then these guys side by side, again, honestly, there's not much of a comparison. Just because of, again, how much extra attention this guy got in terms of the looks. Yeah, the Master Chief Collection had a lot of issues, and there was quality control issues and parts not fitting together. And I think this Chief was one of the ones that the head almost snapped the neck trying to come off. But in terms of looks, this guy just straight up wins. I don't think there's much of a contest here. So it's pretty clear that the Master Chief Collection version is the best in terms of look and accuracy to the game. But which one of these guys is the most affordable? That is the big question, and that is not an easy question to answer because all of these are going to put you back a fair bit if you're trying to get them. Now, this guy, finding him separately, I think is going to be a little difficult because people tend to want to sell the set as a whole, but he's going to cost basically whatever people want to try and ask for him. So this guy is kind of off the table in terms of affordability. Gosh, that's a hard word. Then we got this guy. This guy will put you back around $40 if you want to get your hands on him. Maybe less if you get him not sealed, but that's still a pretty hefty price for a figure like this, especially one that doesn't have the visor outline or whatever. So he's not exactly affordable either. And we got this guy. So this guy is probably your best bet in terms of affordability because he is one of the least desirable figures in the 20th anniversary set. And that's mainly because we've gotten other versions of the Halo 4 Chief in sets, and they're not that hard to get anymore. So you might be able to find people selling him separate for like 15 or 20, which is still a little pricey, but not awful. So in terms of which one of these guys you want to get, if you want to save money, then you probably want to go with the 20th version. If you want the best look, you probably want to go with this version. This guy falls squarely in the middle, and I feel a little bad not being able to put him on one side or the other, but he really is squarely in the middle. He's got better looks than the 20th version and a cheaper price than the Master Chief Collection Chief. As far as I know, I could be wrong because I didn't do a ton of research on this guy before. I don't really keep tabs on especially this set in terms of price because I don't plan on selling mine anytime soon. So for me to keep tabs on the price is not really necessary. So I could be wrong. Maybe this guy has come really far down in price and you can get him really easily. But last I knew, it was still really difficult to get him, which makes him, this guy here, cheaper, to the best of my knowledge. So if you're willing to spend the little more to get this guy, I would honestly recommend this guy and then just draw your own visor outline on. And I know that sounds difficult, but I wanted to bring in my first Chief figure, who is, I turned him into a Halo 4 Chief. I added the scar myself, so this guy's not necessarily Halo 4 Chief, but he is from the Microfleet Warthog, and his visor originally came with no outline, and I added this one myself with a safety pin and some black paint. It's a little thick, but I actually had to do it a little thick because the visor print is not much bigger than this. So you could easily do something like that to this guy right here. Actually, let me zoom in again. There we go. You can see a little better. It's definitely a very thick visor outline. But yeah, this was my first Chief figure, and it took me months to hunt him down. And then I weathered him and then gave him a top coat, painted the visor outline, and he turned out like this. And I'm still pretty happy with how he looks. Even though I do have Chiefs that look better now, he is still pretty special. But yeah, like I was saying, you could totally do that same kind of visor outline, preferably a little thinner, on this Chief, and then he would pretty much be a perfect figure. So, if you're looking to get a really nice Chief, and you don't mind spending a little bit more, I would say get this guy. He's got a really, really cool color. I'm still kind of shocked at the fact that they're not using this green. Why? It's perfect. They had to use this green instead, and it's kind of, it's just weird. I did just notice now, though, right here is printed for this guy and not for here. Don't really know why, but that's so minor. Yeah, come on, Mega. Bring back this green. This is amazing. Well, there you have it. That is the 3 Halo 4 Master Chiefs that, in my opinion, take the top spots. There are others. There's the Broadsword Midnight Strike has one, and I think there's a couple other random ones scattered around. The Infinity has one, I think. I don't know if that one's specifically Halo 4, but it's the same armor type. So, like this guy, he also wasn't specifically Halo 4, but he could be Halo 4. These 3 right here are the best of all the Halo 4 Chiefs. And just to reiterate, if you want the best looks, you want this guy. If you want the best price, you want this guy. If you don't mind having to spend a little more money, but you don't want to spend as much as this guy might cost, then you want this guy. So they all have their strengths, they all have their weaknesses, and not one of them is specifically the best in all aspects. My personal favorite is this guy right here, just because of how realistic he looks, how just perfect he looks on camera, especially when I got that macro lens up close. He just looks really, really good. Same as all of the Master Chief Collection Chiefs, but again, they are really expensive, and they're not necessarily worth spending a bunch of money for because of the issues that they might have. So, that is kind of the final verdict here. Best price, best look, best of both worlds. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time.